Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Londonderry Town Council meeting for March 16th, 2020. First, let's start off by Deb. Congratulations. Welcome.
Yep.
Um, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Under these trying times, let's all have good thoughts and prayers for all of our first responders who are on the first line of this, and for all of those people out there who, could be vulnerable to this disease. Help your neighbors out. So let's think good thoughts. Thank you. So, folks, Councilor Green is on the phone. He is with a family member who's being tested for the virus. So, under the governor's provisions under 91A, he is able to join via teleconference. First item of business for this evening is Town Council reorganization. I'll open with taking motions for chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we appoint John Farrell as chairman and Joe Green as vice chairman.
Second.
I would like to, I don't know how this works, I would like to see either Mr. Butler or Mr. Green be
I
chair.
have a motion on the floor.
Okay, I'm learning, Jim.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair, opposed?
Opposed.
Chair votes affirmative. We'll move forward. Motion carries. First item, Fire Chief, update on the current coronavirus. I'm going to do Fire Chief first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. The latest update as of this afternoon from the state of New Hampshire is there's currently 17 positive tests in the state of New Hampshire. There is 195 pending cases that are being tested right now. A total of 567 have been tested, and there's 525 still being monitored. Out of those numbers, there's 5 in Grafton County, a new one today in Carroll County, and there's 10 in Rockingham County. So I sit up here as your emergency management director, basically just trying to explain to the community what we're trying to do here and what we're focusing on for the days ahead. We've taken a lot of steps over this last week to not only ensure the safety of our first responders, and make the proper protocols to make sure they are safe, but also to make sure the community's safe. I mean, we've gone as far as shutting the schools down. As of today, all the restaurants and establishments in the community are going to be shut down. The library is shut down. The town hall is going to be shut down. And I say that to you, and I say that to the citizens because it's now up to us. It's up to us as a community to keep it in our community, and it doesn't mean just because there's no school for the next 2 weeks we're going to go pack a movie theater or going to go pack, the Mall of New Hampshire. I ask citizens to help me help you and keep this virus out of our town as best as we can. We are working around the clock to make sure that we have the latest of information, making sure that our responders are safe. And another thing I would like to say, if there are any residents out there, I know the whole HIPAA laws and everything like that, but if there are any residents out there that get tested and it comes back positive and you are in need of emergency services, please let our dispatchers know that you are infected so we can take the proper precautions prior to going in. Unfortunately today, what I found out on the noontime conference call is the testing, instead of 24 hours now, is taking up to 72 hours. What that means for me as a fire chief is, depending on the time of the day that the patient may have been exposed to our first responders, it could be 3 days later before we get the test results of that, and they start doing the screening of who was around this patient. In saying that, 3 days for me is 3 different crews, 15 people. 15 people on the fire side would pretty much wipe out 2/3 of our department. So again, all I want to emphasize is if anybody's got any questions, we changed our menu on on the automated phone system today, so if you have questions on the COVID-19 virus, all you have to do is press a couple of keys and it'll direct you right to the New Hampshire 211 line. And you can ask any information or ask any questions that you have in reference to that on there. If residents of the community have questions for me in particular, you can reach me at 432-1124, and I'll be trying to answer any of your questions that you have, or if there's any information that I need to gather, I will do that for you. Again, I can't reiterate enough that this is up to us now. It's up to us to do what people are trying to do here and stay inside. Well, not necessarily stay inside. I mean, it's springtime. Go out and walk the rail trail. Go out and rake your lawns, you know, be outside and just stay away from large gatherings. The president put out today that he's considering a large gathering now more than 10 people. And I think that's the only way we're going to get on top of this. What we are trying to do as a society here right now is we're trying to keep this from peaking to, you know, overextend our healthcare system. And granted, the duration of it will be longer, but we're trying to keep that number down. And it's up to us to keep that number down. So I ask for everybody's help. I will keep everybody informed as time goes on. I will work my fingers to the bone to keep this community safe and to make sure that we get through this as best as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief?
Yeah,
Yes, gentlemen.
Chief, real quick question. If your department or the police department gets a call and it's concerning someone that has the symptoms, what can people expect
So what I've,
when you arrive at the house? I mean, what is the protection for
yeah,
the
so
public
what I've done,
service?
Councilor Butler, is both myself and the police chief is we got together and we had a meeting. I've changed my operational guidelines that basically we get information from the state's 911 system, and they have a list of questions that they ask up there. When it comes to my dispatcher via the CAD, and they take over the call, our dispatchers will ask more questions. We have a code word. We can't say, you know, suspected or COVID-19, but we have a code word that will alert crews that if this is a suspected case, this code word will go over the radio, and they know when they get there. So now I have, I'm only going to be responding 2 people on the ambulance, and then if the engine company has to go and assist, they will, but there's only going to be 1 responder going into the residence of a suspected case, into the residence to do further screening prior to any other crews entering. I'm trying to limit the exposure to, you know, as many people as I possibly can. The PD is going to also respond on medical calls with us, but they are no longer going inside unless they're warranted by us, unless it's a police matter, obviously, you know, domestic violence or some type of police matter that they have to go in first.
And our crews will be in protective gear?
Our crews will be in protective gear. As of right now, we have I can't say a large cache of equipment, but we have a robust cache of equipment right now. We've had stuff on order for the last 2 months, and it's due to be here sometime at the end of April, 1st of May. Unfortunately, we can't get anything right now, nothing. We just found out today that rubber gloves are now on back order. So I'm hoping that the state and the feds at some point in time will be able to kind of breach that threshold a little bit to get more equipment out to the communities. We had to fill out a survey over the weekend telling people what we had. So I think what they're doing is they're compiling all that information, and if there's communities that have more than what Londonderry has, but they're a smaller community, I think they're going to ask for people to share until such time the stockpile increases a little bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tom?
Thank you, Chief, for your explanations. I just want you to comment on something I heard recently, and that's about why we're doing this social distancing and no large groups, is that unlike maybe other viruses, this particular virus could very easily be carried by a very healthy, what appears to be a very healthy person with no symptoms. So you could be in a group and people have no symptoms, they're not coughing, they don't feel bad, they have no fever, but they could be actually carrying the virus and therefore transmitting it.
Yep.
So
You're
that's one of the
absolutely correct.
reasons, and people think, well, all this instruction is overblown, and if someone's coughing, I'll just stay away from them. Well, it could be coming from someone who appears completely healthy.
Yeah, they're saying, you know, the social distancing, that's gonna be the new catchphrase out there right now, but they're saying 6 feet, and you're absolutely right. People are asymptomatic, so they could be walking around just like you or I and carrying this virus and nobody knows about it. I think that's the scariest part of it, is because we don't know that. Yeah, it's just, what they're saying right now is caused by droplets, inhaling droplets, so that, you know, they're asking people, again, personal hygiene, wash your hands all the time. I wash my hands more in the last 3 days than I have in the last 3 months, you know. You know, wash your hands, wash any surfaces, wash your doorknobs, wash your keypads. And that's how we're gonna get ahead of this. We're gonna get ahead of this by following the directions, and it's not a scare tactic. That's what I'm trying. I mean, when it first came about, it's like, oh, maybe it is, but, you know, the more now that I've dealt with it and the more that I see what people are trying to do is we're trying to get ahead of this, where if people follow the directions that everybody's putting out, I think we will get ahead of it. But if they don't and they choose to go to the malls, they choose to pack the movie theaters because they're offering half-price tickets, it's not gonna go anywhere for us.
Yeah, I think in Italy, there's 200 or 300 people are dying per day now.
And we went up, we doubled our number over the weekend, and we had 4 more today. You know?
Deb, any questions? So, Chief, based on the governor moving forward with closing restaurants and bars, the gatherings going down to 10, would you recommend to the council that we go ahead and close town hall starting tomorrow to the public versus Wednesday, so that we can have some additional time to figure out how we're going to serve the public with regards to transactions?
I would, Mr. Chairman, and I'm working now with the town's clergy and hoping that I can get Sunday services for church suspended as well going forward. It's the only way we're gonna get ahead of this is if we stop these gathering places, and that doesn't mean, you know, invite relatives up from Massachusetts or go down and visit relatives to Massachusetts or wherever. Stay home, stay with your families, get outside, get the fresh air, you know, rake the yards, take a walk on the rail trail. You know, there's plenty of things to do, but stay away from large gatherings.
All right, so I'm looking for consensus from the council to direct the town manager to move forward with closing the town hall.
Agreed.
Agreed?
I just have a question, is that okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So if we close down the town hall, and say my registration was due in the time that it's closed, will there be a forgiveness for people if they can't do it online? So say an elderly person they don't have a computer, and they can't do it online. Plus, they maybe don't want to pay the extra 2% that's charged for doing a credit card charge. Are we going to be giving them some sort of, a waiver or, let it slide because it wasn't their fault that they missed the date? A forgiveness, I guess.
I'll let the town manager give you a complete answer, but the short answer is we'll close until we can figure out how to do that, just to the public. The town hall people will be here, but I'll let the town manager answer.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So we've been working through a number of these issues now for the last week in anticipation that we would get to this point. And I'm going to have Assistant Manager Lisa Drabick speak to a number of the operational provisions we've put in place for a closure of the physical building. Speaking to the DMV issue in particular, this is a slightly more trickier thing in that it's governed by the state and not by the town. So in some respects, we're taking the lead of the state on this. What we have gotten from them is guidance that if someone cannot renew their registration either online or by mail-in, so in other words, the only way they can renew their registration is by walking into town hall, or if they have a new car registration and they can't do either of them by the time necessary so that they don't get a penalty. The municipal agent, so the clerk's office, will work with that person through the DMV to make sure that they're not penalized for not meeting that timeline. So I want to ensure everyone, if it appears that you cannot do it any other way besides walking into town hall, we're going to work with the DMV on your behalf to make sure that you're not penalized for not doing that. As far as the credit card fee, it's another thing with the state in that because the online system is state-run and not town-run, it'll be something that we will try to work with the state on, but ultimately it would have to come from the state to be able to waive that fee, because it's a state website, it's not a town website. But that is something that we would agree with, that they shouldn't have to incur that fee if they're forced to do it online. But with that, I want to turn it over to Lisa Drabick and have her talk a little bit more about the operational considerations we're taking as the physical building is closed.
So thank you, Kevin. Just to add a little bit more detail, we put out a press release today. It's on the website, it's on social media, it's posted on the doors. If you're unable to access it any of those ways, of course, you can call the town hall number and dial Kirby's extension 120 or mine or Kevin's, and there's directions in the automated system to get to certain people, and we can help you get to the right answer for a transaction that you would otherwise do in town hall. What we are trying to do is run as a virtual town hall. So just because the town hall will be closed to the public does not mean we will not be working to serve our residents. Some will be working remotely to the extent possible, others will be on site. Of course, our wonderful police and fire departments can't do that. They'll be operating as business as usual. But we do ask that you limit your non-emergency calls at this time and instead call the 211 number that the fire chief mentioned for any COVID-19 related questions. In the press release that I mentioned, we have a very long list of all of the various transactions that one might normally do in town hall. For each of the departments, things you would do in the clerk's office, the assessing office, the planning department, the building department, public works, etc. And there's explicit instructions as to how some of those tasks can actually already be accomplished online via our portal, and the website link is given for those transactions. Otherwise, there's contact information, and you can, to the extent that you might need to just send a check for something, you can send it in the mail. You can put it in the black drop boxes, which are on either entrance to town hall, either public entrance. Those already exist, and we'll have someone, of course, picking those things or emptying those. We can do things via email, via telephone. And then in addition to the very long list of transactions that I mentioned, there's also complete contact information for every department. So we have tried our best. We probably have missed things, and we'll update them as they come up, but we think we've captured the most common transactions that residents would need to come into town hall or like to come into town hall to complete.
Thank you.
Sure.
So based on that, are you?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to have it out there so that everybody heard.
Totally fine. I just want to make sure you were good with it, because you have to take a consensus.
Yep.
Okay. So the consensus of the council is to direct the town manager to close town hall effective immediately for the public.
Yep.
Okay? Agreed. Versus Wednesday. So we'll be closed as of tomorrow morning. Okay. Anything further for the fire chief?
John?
Yes.
If we're gonna close tomorrow, does the school board have a meeting scheduled here tomorrow night? And
So the town hall and business is closed to the public. They will be the second to last meeting that will take place in this particular room, which I will ask the town manager to have disinfected after this meeting. And then there'll be, the ZBA will come in and open and close and dismiss, and then we will be closing all meetings until further notice from that point on. That's about right? Mm-hmm. So we just need to make sure this room gets disinfected tomorrow. Anything further for the fire chief? Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
I'm going to move to public comment. Rules of public comments to keep it under 5 minutes. We will waive that if necessary. Yes, anyone for public comment? Yes, sir. Name and address, sir.
I'll do my part to disinfect first. As we've had quite a bit of take home 6 Bancroft Road. As we've had some runs on the grocery stores right now, and there's some elderly in town who are, I'm sure, financially burdened right now, potentially, and as well other people who are not elderly and financially burdened. I'm wondering if the council can work with the nonprofits that we support to help those individuals who may need assistance.
I think we're going through a protocol for that now, is that correct?
Well, Community Health Services, I should also mention, is still open, just so everybody knows that. So should they need assistance, that's our welfare provider, and the number is in the press release that we talked about. We have spoken with the schools, and while they will be providing food to the students, they have indicated that they can also step up in the void and provide some food to seniors if necessary. We've arranged for the Meals on Wheels recipients who normally get their meals at the senior center to have them delivered to their homes instead. And there's also a group of concerned residents who seem to have stepped up via Facebook, and I'm hopeful to make contact with them, although I think they may be organizing on their own. But I've offered to put that information on our website to make it available however we can. Oh, and I've just been handed something from Ann. Thank you, Londonderry, helping Londonderry seniors. Oh, here's the information from the woman who started this on Facebook, indicating that she'd like to help out, and then several people posted as well. So her number is here. I don't feel like I should give it out right now necessarily.
figure
It's her
out the right way to
personal
do
cell
that.
phone number, but
Sure.
if she's, I'll get in touch with her, and if she's okay with it, we can certainly put this on our website.
Okay.
Wonderful. And I know that there's a lot of runs on the grocery stores right now, and it's not really the safest time for the elderly to be there. So hopefully if there can be some communication to the local grocery stores that, there can be some hours set aside for those members of the community to go. I know some grocery stores around Massachusetts have been pushing for that, so I think that would be a good idea too.
We'll see what we can do to help out.
I would just also add, we've been in touch with the local churches as well, and they've agreed to, they've offered us assistance in whatever areas that we need them.
Wonderful.
You may want to add that as of this morning, a mailer went to a number of addresses here in town with that we believe are some of the folks who are senior and may not have access to electronic communication. And that was all done this morning. Yes.
Just, if I might add also, Ted, thanks for stepping up. I think we need to publicly discourage any hoarding that may be going on in the need, what people need. I think that's counterproductive to us being in this together and surviving together. Going to the grocery store and hoarding is not helpful, and I think we should discourage that, publicly discourage that.
Agreed. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just so people know, Councilor Green is in the parking lot. He did ask to enter the building. I spoke to the fire chief, and he requested that he stay on his phone and in his car. So he is still on the phone. Anything else for public comment? Last item I have is I met Amanda over at Dining Services. She is fantastic, and her crew and everyone else over there. I was out there while WMUR was filming and serving the cars pulling up. Extremely efficient operation. They did a just fantastic job.
Mr. Chairman, could I also ask, I know, I see that Peter Currow is here, the finance director of the school, and sorry to put him on the spot, but there are a lot of Londonderry children who are getting meal subsistence, and with the schools closed, that's difficult, and I know that there is a drive-up opportunity at the school to get lunches and so forth. Maybe could you tell us about that, and if people are used to getting that assistance, how they can continue to get it?
Sure. I'm here in case you did have any questions on the school or the public, so don't feel bad. What Amanda's done is she's already reached out to all the students that are on the free and reduced plan and made them aware. Originally, meals were going to be starting on Wednesday, so she made aware to that group that meals will be ready today. And I believe she had 50 students showing up. Meals will be available to all students. They'll be run the same program as if school was in session. So those are in free, those are in reduced, those are in paid. So they'll basically have a little cashier in front of the high school. There's a tent, and it'll be a grab-and-go procedure. For those who can't make it, we'll also have delivery service. So they'll contact Amanda. They'll say, I'll use me, 105 Adams Road. Can I have service?
By the way, Amanda is your
Dining service director.
The lady who I spoke of.
And we will also deliver to any student that can't make it to the high school. And that, as was mentioned, that same service is being offered to anybody, especially the elderly in town. If they can't make it to the high school, they need delivery. We have, as you know, the delivery, we have the food service van. We also have the 3 minibuses. So we've got vehicles that are available to spider out and deliver a grab-and-go sandwich to anybody that needs in town. And I think the two of us have always worked together. In this particular situation, there's no town, there's no school, there's us, and we'll do whatever we can to help out anybody that needs the help, and we'll figure out the money later.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, and I mentioned to Amanda while I was over there, I gave her my cell phone number, and if she needs anything from the town, she's got Kevin. Darren introduced himself, whatever she needs.
Anything else?
That'd be it. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, so we're going to close public comment, and we're going to move on with our agenda. We have no old business, new business. If you're looking at the agenda, we're going to suspend the update on election warrant articles until our next meeting. We're going to quickly move through our the maintenance trust piece here so we can pay these vendors. I have an order for Order 2020-07, the expenditure of maintenance trust funds for various projects. Mr. Cotton. You'll see in your packet, there is a detailed list of all the individual pieces that add up to the $23,798.95. Steve.
Yes, good evening. The first item that we have is winter maintenance, the town hall, the police department, Morrison House Access Center, and the fire station for $4,630. Next item is here at the town hall, just wrapping up the installation of the enhanced fire alarm system. We had some few issues during the troubleshooting that weren't part of the quote, as well as a wiring issue, and to remove the existing graphic panel with the digital panel. So that was $1,692.95. The next item is over at the police department. Originally in 2004, when that facility was built, certain rooms were designated for certain items, for HVAC, dispatch, IT rooms. It's been a difficult time to maintain the correct temperatures. They've been using fans and mini splits, and not mini splits, but portable AC units. So now we've got a way to break up these 3 areas so that the IT rooms are maintained at the temperature that they need to be at, versus somebody working in a dispatch center not sitting there freezing because the IT room is with the same unit. So this way we can break this up and have 3 individual units, and that's what's going there. This includes the installation of those units and removing and separating the existing HVAC so that we can control the IT as well as the communications area where the individuals are working. The next item on the plate is for the winter maintenance at the senior center for $480. So tonight we're looking for $23,796.95. Any questions?
Any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
Just, I noticed that the senior center has a different company as opposed to, why is that?
Usually what we try to do is select multiple, so we're not stuck with one vendor in case they have an issue, their trucks go down. I like to spread it across so that I'm not relying on one maintenance facility to do the whole building, whole town. So we split it up, Deb, so that, same with the lawn care. We break it up like into 3s.
So how many different ones do you have? Do you do 3 or 2 or?
In the lawn care right now, we have 3. For the
So
winter
you-
maintenance, we have 2.
3 different people to do
3
3
different
different
companies.
projects?
Broken across the town, yes. Whether it's the cemeteries, the town hall grass, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to approve 2020-07.
Make
Thank
a
you.
motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, all right, so ordinance 2020-01. This is an amendment to the zoning ordinance relative to rezoning 603 Mammoth Road, which is Tebow Corporation, right? So, when you give it, we can, I'm gonna ask to waive the reading, but ask for a synopsis of what this is. So I'll accept the motion to waive reading.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 If, Kevin, if you can give us an overview of what this, what they're looking for here, and they're looking for a public, hearing on April 6th.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I apologize because I'm not terribly familiar with this. Obviously, Colleen will be presenting when this comes up, but I do know this went before the planning board. My understanding is Tebow Corporation, which owns this parcel of land, they were actually looking to zone a larger parcel to be, I believe, commercial, where it is currently zoned residential. And the planning board's recommendation was to do a split zoning and only rezone a portion of it to be commercial and not entirely be commercial, as it does abut a residential area.
Okay, we can get into the details when we go to public hearing, but, you know, since they do abut residential, I would expect that we were going to get a fair amount of, I would hope we would get a fair amount of discussion about it. So, any questions? It's just a reading, we don't have to.
No,
we don't-
I-
yeah, we don't
I
have to
was
do
at the
anything.
meeting, so I do know what it's about. but-
Okay, was there anything you'd like to add?
I have a question about it.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
the planning board had said, you know, that small parcel be changed. If the council passes it, right, and says, yeah, we approve that small part,
Mm-hmm.
can there be, I guess, something attached to it that says, in the future, the other 22 acres could never be changed? Because that's the one that they're concerned about, is the second parcel, that they try to change all of it. And then what they did is they broke it into the original piece and then the newer piece. And so the newer piece, when you change it, is it possible to have verbiage that says, you got this, you know, but this part won't be changed because it's so close to Merrill Farm, and you're talking about seepage into the grounds and all that stuff. But my point is it the town council's privy, or would that be the planning board would have to present it that way, is what I'm trying to figure out.
So the town council is in charge of zoning.
Okay,
The planning board only makes recommendations.
okay,
So they can recommend almost anything.
okay,
With regards to your question, I'm not 100% sure, but the applicant, so in the state of New Hampshire, landowners have a lot of rights.
okay.
So if the applicant is willing to do something like you said, we would probably check it out legally to see if we're allowed to do it. And if they're willing to work with us and do something like that, I think that would be something we would consider.
Okay.
Yes.
It would be my opinion that if there was a subsequent request to change additional zoning, that request would have to stand on its own.
More than, I think what Deb is asking is if we do one thing, can we require something else?
Correct.
And we can, I guess we can explore that. Nothing says we can't ask the question.
So we bought,
I mean, if the landowner's willing to volunteer to do it.
Right, I don't think we can compel it, but I think if he wants to make it a condition of the original change. then I
so
suppose-
my thought is, you know, you're asking us to change this for you, and if we do that, so it's rezoning it, and you're gonna get that piece that you want, so the other piece, it's kind of like a give and take thing. In my mind, I guess I don't think the way you guys do, so I'm sorry for that,
We
but,
can compel him to do it under the law, but we can ask the question and he or she can volunteer.
You also have to think that the owner may be very different in 20 years from now. Could be a very different owner, and that different owner could come forward and say, this is what I want to do. And it'd be awful difficult to say, well, the previous owner or 2 owners ago agreed to such and such. It would be hard to compel that new owner to
I get
have it
what you're
binding
saying.
on him.
I get what you're saying, Tom, but I guess my hope is if the new owner buys it in the future, is that they would keep it AR1 because it does abut this farm in this residential area. I know, I'm sorry.
Mr. Davies, Vice Chairman of the Planning Board now?
Yes, I am, apparently.
Yes, sir. So
They voted me in while I wasn't there.
maybe you can enlighten us.
Yes, so, just to clarify, there is a split lot that they currently have their operations on. The back of that lot is zoned AR1, so there's one lot that is split zoning, which I think that's what the recommendation from the planning board was to, coordinate that and make that one zoning. So front of it is commercial, back of it is AR1.
So the back of the lot backs up to Merrill Hill.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I know where it is.
So the recommendation was to make that one lot, all one zoning, commercial. They
So
had
we're gonna have to have a hearing and find out.
Yeah, they had requested the other part that they had purchased, which is abutting to the Merrill property. That's the piece we didn't recommend. And I believe that if we tried to put conditions on it, it would probably be considered legally as a taking.
Okay, so in fairness to the applicant, I'm not gonna get into a lot of questions tonight because this is just a reading, but we'll get into all this in the public hearing.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. So, it's just a reading. We can get into it in the public hearing. I mean, and I just want to be fair to the applicant. Okay, so that reading is waived and completed. Next item is we're going to reschedule the GIS. And the last item for this evening is I have the reappointment of our tax collector pursuant to RSA 41:3, comma, we, the undersigned, hereby reappoint Aaron Newman of 766 Fremont Road, Chester, New Hampshire, as tax collector for the town of Londonderry, New Hampshire. The annual salary for said position shall be $66,935. This reappointment shall be effective April 1, 2020, and be valid for the period of no long than 1 year. It's undersigned by the members of the council. I need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Is that a full-time position?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, she collects, what do we collect about,
Hundred.
about $100 million in taxes? Okay, so I'm gonna pass this around so everybody can sign it. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Joe, you still with us?
Aye.
All right, I'll probably send this out for you to sign it, so don't go anywhere. We'll send it out, we'll get one of the guys to, put all their gear on and come out and see you. Motion passes. Erin, congratulations. She's at home this evening, so thank you for the great job that you did. I don't have anything further this evening. In our next meeting will be April 6th at 7 p.m. The council will be communicating via email on a regular basis here during the next 3 weeks to keep all the council members informed of updates and everything else. Those emails are public. And if we move to a meeting, which will be via conference call, we will post that 24 hours in advance and of course, is open to the public. Yes?
Mr. Chairman, I know Lisa, there's one issue Lisa wants to bring up, and then I would just like to say something. Go ahead.
Well, a couple things. Were you going to do approval of the minutes too from the last meeting?
Sure, there's
Just
3 of
wanted to
us who were
remind you.
here for it. We can probably do that.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 2nd?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
One abstention, and aye 4. Thank you. All right, and
Mr. Chair,
yes,
sorry. One more matter for you all to hopefully consider this evening, looking for a consensus from the council if you'd like to move in this direction. One other thing that came to our attention with regard to your ability to take action in light of the coronavirus, we could, without, we've, I believe, gotten legal opinion from our council that it's kosher to do so, that without, we would not need to do any sort of ordinance, but rather you all could get a consensus tonight to extend the filing deadline, which is currently April 15th, for all exemption applications, for the elderly exemption, disabled, blind, veterans, all veterans, disabled veterans tax credits. we could extend that from April 15th to whenever you would like, but not too far in advance, according to our assessor. His suggestion would be June 1st, and that's apparently what some other towns are doing as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, should you like to take that action.
Everybody good with that?
Good with it?
All right, so you have a consensus to move forward on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you'll see one other item in here called liaison reports. Liaisons will be sent out via email. If you have any questions about your liaisons or what your duties are, just ask. Okay? Let's see, anything further?
Yeah, just Mr. Chair, I just want to take just a minute to thank a number of people who have been working virtually around the clock since really last week, starting with Election Day and continuing through today. Obviously, our fire chief, who serves as the emergency management director, in conjunction with the police chief as well, making sure that all of our first responders are up to the task and have everything that they need to respond to these emergencies. Mr. Chairman, yourself, we know we've been in contact with one another many times a day, again, since last week through the weekend. You've been very supportive with the needs of the employees here at Town Hall. And lastly, I want to give a big thanks to my assistant director, Lisa, who's done just an amazing job pulling together a lot of personnel-related matters as it relates to responding to the current crisis. We're not anywhere near out of the woods yet. We're still going into it. But nonetheless, it's been a lot of hands on deck. It continues to be a lot of hands on deck, and appreciate everyone's patience and support. We'll get through it, but do know that your elected officials and also your staff at Town Hall are doing everything they can to combat this for the residents in town.
Thank you. With that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Yeah, we'll send